I'm Danish born, from Danish parents of Danish descent for 300 years. And when I was about 10, I moved to Brussels and grew up in Belgium for 7 years there and got into what was called body beat at the time. I was into metal mostly, but got into what eventually became new beat and took off into acid house and so forth. And Belgium was an excellent place to experience this cultural development that happened in the 80s, because they were in there very early, and they brought clubbing to the kind of level we see around here at that time. It's not the same anymore, but there are some phenomenal historic tracks laid down there. And from there in the clubs I heard about Ibiza, and when I graduated from school, all the tickets to EOS was sold out, so I thought, well, go to Ibiza. I went back to England to do a degree for 3 years, and on the day of my last exam I flew back here again with a couple of synths of mine and just started gigging around playing live techno trance and things like this. There was 3 studios at the time when I came here, and now there's hundreds, if not over 1,000, and of various levels, of course, but that whole aspect have changed. The technology has changed, but in the old days, yeah, there was few. So yeah, when Ibiza blew up, the press went bananas, and they ended up interviewing old Ibizengos in the rice field, or not rice field, but whatever fields they have. They would chase them down with cameras. Café Del Mar Sunset would have like 12 camera crews stumbling over each other. So the media explosion meant that anything that had some kind of cultural content and substance here was thrown into the media canon, and that happened very much to me. For me, it was a form of therapy. I just finished university, I had my head full of economic and psychological theory, and I just wanted to blow my brain out with chemicals, and that's all I did for the first whole season. And then the winter that ensued, I therapeutically intervened and repaired myself making ambient music that felt like a massive relief. And I put grooves to it, and for me it was ambient grooves. And certainly the press came running talking about chill out, which was a thing you could do, or otherwise a title of a KLF album, but it became a genre. And it started smearing into lounge and all these other things. It's all kinds of electronica was wrapped under one umbrella. Café Del Mar gave traction to this phenomenon as well. So when that phenomenon came around, there was the market, I was good content, the media was screaming, and all I did was run my own label here where I released my own CDs, and I just sold them here. That was it, that's all I did. I didn't go for international distribution. I had lots of offers from Sony, BMG, Rondor, Idol, Extravaganza, people like that. And I just turned them all down, because in those days you could make a much better living than any of those advances if you just license your tracks to compilations. We counted over 250 Ibiza compilations on the market in 2002. I licensed tracks to Ibiza compilations in Tokyo to record labels called Ibiza Tokyo Club, who only does Ibiza compilations in Tokyo. And they come here every summer and take some pictures in the club, and that's the covers, and bingo, there you go. So it's a phenomenon. It's beyond a brand. It's the government is fighting for a geographic definition, trademark, patent, like you have for champagne, and they are trying to do this with the name Ibiza for the music industry. One of them was the decisive gig in space, where I decided I'm not going to go home. It was the closing parties of '95, and through contact with a friend, I'd gotten a live gig in Space Inside, and everyone was wasted, so I don't really know how it sounded, but I heard it was quite loud. But it was, to me, such a riveting moment that I decided in that moment afterwards in the terrace with a friend's girlfriend who laid tarot cards for me that it would probably be good not to go home and stay here with what's happening here, the phenomenon and the fact that there's actually something happening for me. And there was some other people who had a studio, a good friend of mine, Amito as La Paloma, now the restaurant. He had a studio there that no one could run, so I was staying there, running that studio, and phoned home and said, I'm staying. I was working with a friend, and we were working for Ibiza, the South American TV network and early satellite player and so forth. And we were working with a format called it was the Adrenaline Dance Network, and we were working to produce recordings of DJs from clubs with the crowd reacting to the music in 8-track formats. So that we had the stereo mix and we had 6 mics out in the crowd. And the old man of Ibiza died, and the project was thrown away with another 400 projects on the side that he had going. So my partner from that, Jose Pascual, suggested, that was his idea, that we should do an award show for DJs. We had to invite everybody, but over the years it grew like crazy. And now when we do the DJ Awards, well, half the nominees are in town. And that's the thing, you don't get that anywhere else in the world. You don't get an attention to one's position in the Ibiza clubbing market. And what is rarely deducted economically, but quite interesting, is to measure the performance of any promoter in Ibiza with their performance the following year back home. It tends to be a very, very binding parallel. If they go down in Ibiza, they go down the season after back home. It happened to many. It can be because they lost all their money here, because that's easy. I mean, I'm still doing chill tracks, but it's kind of spread. The bottom has dropped down into almost experimental style ambient stuff, which is it's one of my hobby concepts that I'm very fond of. And then the other side, grooves have lifted themselves into the early hundreds BPM and so forth, and has a little more for drive and so forth. But I've also gone back to make more pumping electronic music, with 128-ish to 124 to 130, something like that. And I release stuff with Iboga, for example, at the moment, it's this Danish label. And I do dance remixes as well of things. So I'm pretty wide on the electronic 4/4 spectrum, dropping into the beatless as such. A more rigorous schedule. I don't think there's gonna be any rapids coming out my head that would be awesomely new or anything like that. I'm just getting deeper into what I do, what I like doing, and what I seemingly do better than other things, and also on the reaction. There might be some new all-out burning psytrance stuff on the side, but I mean, the world will always know me as the chill-out guy, and I do all these other things, but that's where I am, and it doesn't seem to change. I'm quite happy with it. I'm Lenny Ibizarre, and when I need to get laid, I listen to DVFM, The Sound of Style. Yeah.